In this video, you will see how to create a window schedule for windows in the model. You'll see how to format and organize schedules to present the data in a concise way. And you'll also see how to add a calculated parameter to a schedule and explore the bidirectional associativity between schedules and models. The schedule is a way to present information about the model in a tabular format. Each object is listed in the table, with the columns displaying fields of information that can't easily be displayed in a drawing. With the objects being spread across the entire building, a schedule makes it easier for a contractor or manufacturer to ensure that nothing is missed during the construction. I have the exercise file window schedule open, and we can see that this building has many windows, and we will create a window schedule to help document those. Before we start, it's important to note that the window schedule will only document the windows in the model and will not document the glazed curtain wall panels that we can see in the view. So to create the window schedule, we'll go to the View ribbon tab, and from the Create panel, we'll click the Schedules drop down and then pick Schedules and Quantities. Now we need to select the category for the new schedule. We have a search box here, so as I start to type in Windows, we can see that list of categories filtered out. And with Windows selected now, we'll click OK to create that new schedule. And straight away we get the schedule properties, and we need to choose the fields that we want to appear as columns within the schedule. Now we have quite a lot of available fields here. So I'll expand out the filter panel just here. And we only really want to deal with the built-in parameters for this schedule, so we'll change the parameter type here to built-in parameter. And now the first field that we want to add is the level field. So we have the parameter name search here, so as I start to type in level, we can see those fields start to get filtered. So I'll pick on the level field here. And now using the Add to Scheduled Fields button here in the middle, we can send this across to the right hand panel here. And this will be our first column. So next we want to add the mark field. So I'll change the parameter name search and start to type in the word mark. And we can see now that we have several fields here, so I'll select the mark field and add that to the scheduled fields. And we'll also select the type mark and add that one too. And next we want to add in the width, height and sill height parameters. And these are all length parameters. So we'll go to the filter panel just here, and we'll change the value type from all, and I'll type in the letter L, and we can see that changes to the length type now. And in the available fields, we can see we just have length parameters, so we'll add the width first, and then the height, and then finally the sill height. And now I'll change the parameter value type back to all. And the last field that we want to add in is the family and type field, and we can see that in the list here, so I'll select it and add that to the schedule. So now that we have all of those fields added, we'll click OK. And we can see that schedule now with the field names as the column headers here. And we can see it's quite a long list of windows here, as these are all of the windows in the entire building. So it would be easier to read this schedule if we could group the windows, and we'll group them according to the level that they're placed upon. So to do this, we'll go to the Properties palette here, and we'll click the Edit button next to the Sorting and Grouping parameter. And we'll choose to sort first by level and then by mark. And this will create the sorting order. And now we'll select to have a header and also a blank line under the level parameter here, and that will create the grouping. So now we'll click OK. And now we can see that that schedule has been grouped according to the levels here, so floor 2, floor 3. And we can see it's organised according to the mark values of the windows. So now, looking at the grouping here, we don't really need to see the level column here, as we have it as the header for the group. So I'll select one of the entries here. Now from the Modify Schedules and Quantities ribbon, on the Columns panel here, we can click the Hide Columns button. And that column's now been hidden from the schedule view, although it's still being used for the sorting and grouping. Now as we scroll down the schedule here, it can sometimes be difficult to remember which parameter is actually in which column. So for example, it'd be easy to get the width and height columns here mixed up. So to help with this, we'll go back to the Modify Schedules and Quantities ribbon here. And on the Titles and Headers panel, we can click the Freeze Header button. And then we can see the headers of the schedule come back into the top, and as we scroll, they will stay there to help remind us which column represents which parameter. Now looking at the width and height columns here, they're currently reading in feet and inches, and we'd like them to display in inches only. So to do this, I'll select one of the entries here, and then from the Modify Schedules and Quantities ribbon, we'll go over to the Parameters panel here, and then click Format Unit. In here we'll unselect the Use Project Settings option. Now we can change the unit to be inches. Now we'll assign the unit symbol. And now click OK, and we can see now that all of the entries in that width column display in inches. So I'll choose an entry on the height column, and we'll go back and click the Format Unit button. And again we'll uncheck the project settings and change the units to inches and assign the unit symbol. And then click OK, and we can see both those columns now are displayed in inches. So we'd like to add a column in that calculates the area of the window opening. And to do this, we'll need to add in a calculated parameter. So we'll go back to the Modify Schedule and Quantities ribbon here. And from the Columns panel here, we'll click Insert. And now, in between the two fields here, we have some buttons, and one of these is to add a calculated parameter. So we'll click on this. Now, we'll set its name to be Opening Area. It's going to be a formula, and we're going to calculate an area, so we'll change the type to Area. And now for the formula here, we'll click the ellipsis button here to open up the fields, and we can only use fields that have been added to the schedule. So I'll select the width field first, and then click OK. And now we can add the multiply symbol from the keyboard here, and then click the button again, and we can select the height field and click OK to add that into the formula. So now we have that formula created of width multiplied by height, and it knows to calculate an area. We'll click OK, and we can see that's now been placed at the bottom of the scheduled fields. So we'll use the Move Up arrow here and move it up so that it sits beneath the height parameter. And now we'll click OK, and we can see that new column added into the schedule here, and it's calculating the opening area of the window. We also want to add in the Comments field, so we'll go back to the ribbon and click on the Insert button once more. And now we can select the comments from the available fields and add it to the scheduled fields. And we can see that's added it in beneath the height, so we'll move it down so it's after the sill height, and then we'll click OK. And we can see we have that comments column added into the schedule now, and as we scroll down we can see any comments that have been added onto the individual objects. And now to show the bidirectional associativity between the schedule and the objects here, we can see that we have on floor 3 here 2 windows that have a comment added that say Tintin film is required. Actually, if I select window 29 here, and then we'll start to add in the same comment Tintin, and we can then pick that from the list here. And we've now added that comment to window 29. So with it selected, we'll go up to the Modify Schedules and Quantities ribbon here. From the Elements panel, we'll click Highlight in Model. Now we can see that swapped us to the 3D view we had open, and in the background the window is highlighted. But we want to see this in a plan view, so we'll click the Show button here for it to search through other available views. And that's just letting us know that we don't have an open view that shows it, so it will need to search through the project browser. So we'll click OK. And now we can see that we have that view open in the background, so I'll click Close. And that's now looking at the floor 3 floor plan view. And we can see we have window 29 selected. And looking in the Properties palette here, we can see with the Comments parameter, and we have that comment of Tintin film required. If I select window 28 just beneath this, and looking at the properties here, we can see the comments is actually blank. So I'll start to type in Tintin film required and then select it from the list here. And now we've applied it to window 28, I'll swap back to the window schedule, and we can see next to window 28 we've got the comment tinting film required in the schedule too. So we can see that this schedule is live looking at the model. And now I'll swap back to the floor 3 plan view, and we'll add another window into the conference room here. So to do this, I'll select the window here in the room below, and now on the Modify Windows ribbon tab on the Create panel, we'll click Create Similar. And from the Place Windows ribbon, we'll select the Tag on Placement option. And now we'll just place a window approximately in the middle of the conference room. I'll click Modify to finish that tool, and we can see now that that's window 80. So now I'll swap back to the window schedule view, and at the bottom of the floor 3 group here we can see window 80 has been added in, and that shows that the schedule is live and updated as the model is edited. So now with it selected, if I go back up to the Modify Schedules and Quantities ribbon, and from the Rows panel here click the Delete button, we'll get a message here that lets us know we're going to delete that row from the schedule, but also delete the associated element. So we'll click OK, and we can see that row's been deleted. And if I swap back to the floor 3 view, and we can see that that window has been deleted from the model, and that completes creating our window schedule.